Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So this is part 3. We're going to firmly establish that you have to do the right thing to go up. You can't just have faith, which will make it clear to you, unless you're a little lost, a little more than a little lost, that those who argue that faith alone magically saves you and you don't actually have to obey the commands, okay, that they don't know what they're talking about. And if they don't know they're talking about this very obvious thing, how could they know whether heaven is going to come to the physical earth or whether it's going to be somewhere else? A new heaven and a new earth is literally somewhere else, not just some kind of pagan interpretation, which is what they're using, a pagan interpretation, where there's ages, right? And one age goes to the next, right? There's an age of, Mars, an age of Zeus, or whatever the hell they do. They have ages and things change and they come into a theater arts theme. That is the devil's way. Dionysus, a deity of theater arts, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, falsehood, rape by deception, following mere emotion and instinct, like the Bible warns about in 2 Peter 2:12. But these are natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed. They speak evil of the things that they can't understand, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. They're corrupt. Jude 1:19. These are the people who divide you, who follow mere natural instinct, but do not have the Spirit. They're mere brute beasts that follow natural instinct. They don't have the Spirit, and they're made to be taken and destroyed. The Spirit is a spirit of sound judgment, discernment, wisdom, knowledge of universal pinpoint and moral precision. When you read Proverbs enough, it's crystal clear. It should be crystal clear right away, but it's crystal clear if you've read it, say 4 or 5 times. If you go back to it often and write Proverbs on your wall, it's talking about sense, universal principles, prudence, scrambling to do what's right, diligence. It's talking about discernment and insight. It's not talking about having some vision in a scatterbrained sense and say, I get it now. Maybe sometimes that helps, but that's not the Spirit. The Spirit, in its potent form, in its true form that's being talked about again and again, is a spirit of essential sense. The essence of essential sense. A spirit of insight, of discipline, of having sound logic. So when you look up what the Spirit does in Paul's letters, it says it gives the person sound mind. It gives them discernment. When people are discerning, they're like never scatterbrained. Think about, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Does he have a discernment? No. These characters. Pee Wee Herman, is he discerning? No. I've never in my 43 years on this planet, be 44 this year if I'm still alive, I've never come across anyone who's scatterbrained, who's insightful. Think about Einstein or Tesla. They're not insightful. They have a certain insight into specific scientific things, not into life. They did not show the foresight to come into the divine order. They weren't insightful. They weren't the type to look at somebody and say, that person is greater than a scientist, or that woman is more virtuous than that woman. They don't have that insight. They're scatterbrained. They're skilled like someone with autism might be skilled at coding or catching error in a code. Does he have insight? No. The Spirit isn't the spirit of Einstein or Tesla or Isaac Newton or Niels Bohr or Leibniz or any other scientist. The Spirit is the spirit of a warrior. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Exodus 15:3. Psalm 50. God is a God of justice. Isaiah 16:5, he'll seek the causes and speed the causes of righteousness and justice. It's a spirit of righteousness, justice, discernment, prudence, insight, sense, wisdom. Knowledge of why you're here, existential intelligence, knowledge of God. So we see in Proverbs 15:10, it says, stern discipline awaits anyone who leaves the path. The one who hates correction will die. Well, if you're just supposed to be in a scatterbrained state and just, acting like a drug addict on the street or something, okay, how can you effectively respond to correction and discipline. Stern discipline awaits anyone who leaves the path. The one who hates correction will die, spiritually speaking. Everyone's going to die physically, right? Spiritually speaking. So are we talking about Einstein, having a shot or two, giggling, making a funny face, walking in a crooked manner, saying it's okay because I'm smart, I can do what I want, I'm a scientist? Or are we talking about someone moving masterfully like the most masterful martial artist, me? Someone sabotaged for moving masterfully. Not somebody the government tries to keep alive because they want to exploit their scientific ability, but somebody who they're screening out because he has a superior life path and the government wants to baby line, dumb down, baby Babylon, baby line, Rothschild, Nicole Kidman, kidding around, joking, right? G.I. Joe, Joe King. They want to bring people down, dumb them down. So it is folly to follow the priests and the scientists. And that goes back to Proverbs 15:21. Folly brings joy to the one who has no sense. The word being used is sense. But whoever has understanding keeps a straight course. If you go off into science and help the government make weapons of mass destruction so they can bully other nations and exploit other people instead of them, is that a straight course? No. If you have a physics teacher in college, for example, or wherever, he's writing on the board, he's out of touch, some kid throws a wad of paper at him and hits his back and starts snickering. The guy, who threw that? Is that guy the sharpest person ever lived? No. He's someone immersed in his work, who's out of touch with what really matters and focuses on mere human wisdom. Now, I'm saying that people shouldn't go into science at all and look into these things? No. But when you define yourself as that, when that's the pinnacle of who you are not the way, the truth, and the life. That's for sure. It's like everything I've said in this series. Verse 23. A person finds joy in giving an apt reply. And how good is a timely word? Timing. Are scientists or priests masterfully moving with timing? Or do they just come into the rate of the state? Late, rate, state, hate, fate, mate. And checkmate. Are you checkmated because of your rate? Or are you scrambling to obey God through me? Are you giving me an apt reply and a timely word by your actions? Or is it mere lip service by your actions or otherwise? Verse 24. The path of life leads upward. Where does it lead? Upward. For the prudent to keep from going down to the realm of the dead. To keep them from going where? Down to the realm of the dead. Who are they? They're prudent. They're scrambling to do what's right. And their goal is to go up, not down. And where does gravity on this planet pull you? Down. So to stay on this planet is to go down. What's the difference between being a demon who's heavy set and an angel who's light? Now, weight doesn't matter so much. It's intention. If they cause me to put on 100 pounds, I'm still going to heaven. It's referring to the spirit of choosing to kind of fortify yourself in the flesh versus going upward, taking flight. The word soar is like the word spar. The word wings has the word win in it. And not because of the G in Freemasonry or the earth deity. The sun has one, the number one, the alpha, A1. And the sun is a symbol of God. So it's symbolizing that God is one. Psalm 19. I don't worship the literal sun, I worship God. 25. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but he sets the widow's boundary stone in place. Now, there's two different ways to look at this. Two main different ways. One is the widow is the prostitute. And the Bible talks about making the sand the boundary that the water cannot cross. The water of the Lord cannot cross into the realm of the dead and join them because they're righteous. They're with God and in his spirit. So it's the widow as the prostitute who refuses to admit that she's a widow, that she's suffering death, mourning, and famine, and then she has a revelation and is burned with fire in a way that she realizes, and off to hell she goes with the souls that are caught up in her, and the beast, and in the dragon, the false prophet, and so on and so forth. The other is a woman who's married to a righteous guy. The state kills her, like King David sent off one of his soldiers to be killed so he could have Bathsheba. She's now a widow. And there's a boundary stone in place, just like there's a Sarah with God and Hagar with the world. Okay, the Jerusalem in the sky is our mother. Galatians 4. Hagar has followed the way of King David when he was in the spirit of making that mistake, which he was rebuked for by God and the prophets. The widow's boundary stone, the sand, whether you're in a fertile spiritual state or in a desolate desert as a spiritual state. Somewhere, somehow, there's some attractive female who would have been my wife that will probably never be my wife. And they violated the code, the boundary, and for what? Act like some Pee Wee Herman frat boy? Act like an idiot in church when everyone knows they're lying? What do they do it for? Make a weird face like the Pope? What did they do it for? They have a crest on and say you're from a neo-colonial, quote-unquote, royal family of this world? What's more worldly than that? The princess complex and the prince's complex. The prince of darkness focuses on image. Verse 26. The Lord detests the thoughts of the wicked, but gracious words are pure in his sight. The thoughts. When people are done screening me out, they've cheated me out of my right to lead, what are they thinking? They thinking they want to repent? Well, it's too late. And they're probably not thinking that. Not in a way that would actually have caused them to repent if I was still there. They're thinking some worldly Babylon nonsense, and they found their worldly Babylon life. Proverbs 10:20, the tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the hearts of the wicked is of little value. We see silver stands for insight in some points in the Bible. So the tongue of the righteous is valuable. It is valuable like insight. Their actions, their words include, show you insight. But the heart of the wicked is of little value, and it's going to hell. Go to Proverbs 15, go back to verse 16. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. Proverbs 16:8. Better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. Which goes back to ill-gotten gains. Better to be lowly in spirit with the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud. See how this is a recurring theme in Proverbs? Are they just saying this so you say, wow, that's interesting? Or are these divine commands that are being expressed in the form of sayings? Proverbs 19:1, better the poor whose walk is blameless than a fool whose lips are perverse. And since they're perverse, they've yoked themselves to the perverted. Their lips, their actions. Also, as the application, if it's true, then we can say that's part of it too. What they drink, are they drunk out the blood of the saints? They drinking fancy wine while people are miserable? Who, when, where, how, why? Who they kiss? Or whatever else. Okay. Proverbs 22:15. Folly is bound up in the heart of a child. Baby line. Child. Babylon. Baby. But the rod of discipline will drive it far away. Far away from where? Are they corrected in time? And they go to heaven? Who, what, when, where, how, why? Case by case. Timing. It'll drive you far away from God And where is Satan cast out? To this earth. Earth is like a training ground that's transforming into hell. Will you cling to it? Will you find your life in the world? What was Satan referred to as? The God of this world. The spirit versus the flesh. What is the flesh? Flesh is physical. The spiritual body versus the flesh-based body. Proverbs 22:16. One who oppresses the poor to increase his wealth, and one who gives gifts to the rich, both come to poverty. When an attractive female is a gold digger, is she giving herself to the rich? You betcha. And that's pathetic. Maybe she doesn't get there, maybe she does. But she's intending to give herself to them. And she's going to come to spiritual poverty, and she's going to burn in hell if she doesn't repent in time and obey God through me. The one who obeys my commands, which include to rally to me. It's in Isaiah 13. We also see in Luke 6:46, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? You're commanded to do what I say. And is it generations of rebellion that have led you to be away from me and to not know who I am? If you don't know who I am, if you're watching this after the fact, after my flesh dies, did not your family betray you? In the same arrogant and haughty and stubborn and stiff-necked spirit that Santa Clara County has betrayed me, that everyone in the know has betrayed me? Proverbs 23:17, do not let your heart envy sinners, but always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. Are you envying sinners? Are you wishing you were rich right now? So you could live the rest of your life as a rich person following a false idol like a punk. Can you imagine Einstein trying to tell you that you need to stop being a punk and you need to be a man and a warrior? Well, obviously a scientist isn't set over you to lead you to God. I am. Who could be taken seriously? The military, a boxer, MMA fighter? A gang member who doesn't obey God through me? None of them are. Who? The president? I'm the only one you could even take seriously. Everyone else trying to exert power over you, it's folly. It's a sick joke. You must be joking around. G.I. Joe, America's heroes, right? It's a joke. Joe King. And when you look around, don't you see people looking like they're in a circus character, some carnival, fairgrounds, or they're looking like some worm who's allowed to look more professional and serious than that. And then all you see everywhere? Proverbs 24:1, do not envy the wicked, do not desire their company. Their company. For their hearts plot violence, and their lips talk about making trouble. In a world where millions of people die of preventable deaths every year, do you want to be in a spirit that's yoked to the main spirit of evil that's causing this to occur? A compartmentalized sub-spirit, maybe a head on the beast, a horn on the beast, maybe you're following one of the 10 horns. He's one of the 7 heads. As there's 7 abominations that fill your heart, is what this proverb says. We see in Isaiah 30, where it says that the moon will shine 7 times brighter. And then what happens? And the Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice and will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire. With cloud burst, the storm of the Lord, connected to my martial arts strikes, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. And it's my strikes before they edit my videos to try to make my moves look like some kind of LGBT clown. Not doing the LGBT community any favors. Because as one who is slacking his work is brother to one who destroys, every LGBT person is brother to the LGBT people who harass me and persecute me and edit my videos. The people leading the charge against me, the LGBT people in the governing class, and the rest of the governing class are their worst enemies, but so are the rest of you. yoke to them. But there's something to be said about people who are more like the people who are leading the charge. As they say, there's a special place in hell for them. And first and foremost, they are rich people. When there are people directly involved in this case, people giving the orders, people who came up with the idea, what have you. Proverbs 11:3, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the perversity of the faithless destroys them. Let's stop there for a second. So you're telling me it's integrity that guides them, a universal principle. The Hebrew word for integrity, without me knowing Hebrew, I can tell you with certainty, refers to universal integrity. Because what happens if you do not have a word that refers to universal integrity? What's the point of language? You say that person's a good person. You say they want to watch your kids. Well, that person has integrity. What does it mean? So in order for this to be translated this way, the word, at least in a certain context, refers to universal integrity. Now let's say for the sake of argument it didn't. In a sense, I'm giving them more credit than they deserve, right? Let's say for the sake of argument it didn't. So it does and it does. It's kind of like saying morals in our society. It refers to universal morals first and foremost, unless you're an idiot. They refer to some specific, let's say, random system. Oh yeah, I knew you meant that, right? Stupid. But let's say it referred to a certain integrity within the boundaries of Luciferianism. You think God doesn't expect you to see through that with the brain he's given you? And say, well, those are mere human rules, customs, and traditions. There's many people. There's thousands and thousands of cultures in the world. In Nigeria, there's hundreds of cultures in Nigeria alone. Hundreds of languages. Over 300 languages are spoken. Countless languages are spoken in America. And more often than not, at least they have accompanying cultures that go along with those languages to some degree. And they have different cultures that go along with the same language, or that are used by people who speak the same language. So we can know for sure that God is talking about universal integrity first and foremost. That's what must be talked about. God is known by his acts of justice. When you're a regular person walking around and all of a sudden this great act of justice occurs, okay, Noah, for example, before the Torah is written, how does he know that it is God and good? Because it's universally good. What would a story talking about something other than universal morality? A moral absolute, right? You shouldn't rape somebody for no reason. And there's very few times where there would be a reason. For example, long ago, way long ago, it couldn't exist anymore. When you're in some kind of reproduction war and you take captives, and you need more babies to fight a long war. That's no longer the case. But for no reason, to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. If you're to argue that you shouldn't do it no matter what, we can all agree that you shouldn't do it for no reason. Just to be sadistic, for no good reason. That's a universal moral. And God is known for reinforcing those universal morals and rewarding people. What is the most sought after thing historically? Is it a scientist? No, not even close. It is to be the greatest warrior. The reason why kings have a sword. Not a chemistry kit. Not a trowel like Freemasonry and a compass, but a sword. A symbol of divine masculine authority when it is in the right context. The most sought after thing ever is what I am, the top martial artist ever possible. That is universal justice, doing the idea of the ideal universal justice. And how did I get here? From universal pinpointed moral precision and focused moral intensity, especially over generations, the wise builders. From the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom. From the actions, including the reproductive actions of the righteous, comes the fruit of wisdom, and the most wise, the top martial artist ever possible, that is me. And the unwise worms They order people to change my voice and image and to fume and poison me. My arguments are so wise and so sound, they have no viable counter-argument. And in some ways better than winning my top martial arts challenge, which continues, is having them tail tucked. 1,000, the number of completion, will flee from one. I am that one, the Alpha. And they flee from debating me, tail tucked. Every church, mosque, synagogue, every temple, every philosophy but mine. And my religion is universal, pinpointed, moral precision. The people from your churches, who the state backs up on top of that, I don't even own a firearm, have no reason to fear debating me, unless my arguments come from God and theirs don't, and they've been trampled and confounded. And they're still fleeing even as I say this. Fleeing from the responsibility to their family souls as well. Proverbs 11:20 directly connects to Revelation 17:5. The name written on her forehead was a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. Of what? Of the abominations of the earth. She's the mother of this. She's all your mothers. Hagar, Jerusalem in this world, Babylon, every nation in this world who's like Jerusalem in this world. Is America like Jerusalem? Is Russia? Is China? They're all corrupt nations. And they follow that kind of global system of government. They call corrupt civilizations, or nations rather, they call them civilizations that are decent, and everyone who's not like them magically is barbaric or savage. So again, she's Babylon the Great is her title. She's not great, she's a worm. The mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. Proverbs 11:20, the perverse in heart. Remember, the Lord weighs the heart. The heart of the wicked is of little value. The perverse in heart are an abomination to the Lord. But the blameless in their walk, right? Their actions, their walk, their paths, their ways are his delight. So she's the mother of prostitutes. Women who, even they get married as a virgin and they get married in church. Why aren't your churches obeying God through me? So you're prostituting yourselves to Dionysus and the other deities of your church. And quite often you marry based on financial stability. So you're prostituting yourself in various ways. Or maybe you're someone who's an active prostitute, just happens to get married. In various ways, it's true. She's the mother of that. And of abominations, which are the perverse in heart. She's the mother of prostitutes and the perverse in heart. Perverse, perverted in various ways, wicked, evil, undisciplined. Liars. The righteous detest the dishonest, the wicked detest the upright, is what Proverbs says. Proverbs 13:6, one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. Righteousness guards the person of integrity, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. Overthrows. Now, what better way to throw somebody than to throw them down? Spiritually. When the devil tried to get Christ to kill his flesh in the Bible, it would only be wrong for Jesus to kill his flesh if it wasn't for God's plan. When Jesus said, I'm going to stick around till they crucify my flesh, he may as well have stepped in front of a train or put a gun to his head and shot himself or jumped off a cliff, because he knew it was going to kill his flesh. But he didn't kill his flesh for no reason. He used wisdom. But when you throw the enemies of God's souls down, like the mighty angel in Revelation 18, throwing the boulder down, the souls caught up in Babylon's system with such great force and violence, Babylon the Great will be thrown down. never to be found again, or it's a millstone the size of a large boulder, because she's leading the children astray. Right? You're better off having a millstone hung around your neck and be thrown in the sea than to lead the children astray. So it's a boulder in a sense. It's a millstone the size of a large boulder.